my name is Tracy Cook, and welcome to the podcast series Victim to Victory. This series gives a voice to those that have overcome obstacles in all forms, that dare greatly to share their real stories. Amazing humans like our upcoming guest that have seen hope and risen above those adversities to become victorious, that now support, empower, and inspire others to do the same, just as our special guest today is doing for communities, for impact, for inspiration, and for education. And her name is Chantal Cox. Welcome to Victim to Victory.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. It is an absolute pleasure. I've been looking forward to this interview, and I know how much value you bring to an audience, and I know how many people you're helping and how much you serve from your heart as well. So I really appreciate that. Now, before we get into your story, we have a little bit of information about you to share with our audience today, because you are a special educator, an author, and a speaker, and a transformation neuro coach. Love that, interested in that, and a certified life purpose coach. And I love connecting with coaches, especially because they deal with so many different people in so many different situations. And you help women connect with their unique purpose and permanently remove the blocks holding them back so they can step into their full potential and live an aligned and fulfilling life of impact. Wow, wow, wow. Now, not only that, if you're listening, this woman is a powerhouse. You're going to want to follow and connect with her, because her book, Create a Life You Love, which is 10 healthy habits to transform your life now, actually shares her personal transformation story after getting out of and staying out of an abusive marriage and a lifelong struggle with depression, anxiety, and extremely low self-worth. Wow. Thank you very much for being here today, Chantal, because every time we tell our story, it takes that new level of braveness. So who are you and where does your story start?
Yes, wonderful. I love that everything you chose to share already leads perfectly into it and gives a nice little backdrop. So, as you shared, I've had this ongoing lifelong battle with anxiety, depression, extremely low self esteem. And so that really guided who I believed I was and what I believed I was worth of and how I believed I deserved to be treated. And so most of my life, up till my 30th birthday, I had some pretty negative self talk. I had some automated thoughts and beliefs about myself and my identity, and it guided my decisions, my actions that I took, and then the results that I had. So on my 30th birthday, because all that led me to getting in relationships where I was treated the way I felt I deserved to be treated. So on my 30th birthday, I woke up and decided enough is enough, and I left my abusive husband. And I had to completely rebuild myself and my life. And I picked up my first ever self help book. And thus began the transformational journey of Chantal Cox, right?
It all starts with a book. It all starts with a book, 100%. And
It does.
can I ask, what was the book? Do you remember what the book was?
Oh my gosh. Um, I believe it was a Brene Brown book because at back to school in service, my principal had shown a clip of her TED Talk, and I was like, what? We can talk about vulnerability and shame? Who is this person? Um, so I went down
Hmm.
a Brene Brown rabbit hole, which then led to the whole, self help, personal development rabbit hole. I was introduced to podcasts and just was so hungry for this new information and just consumed it as quickly as I could.
Oh, wow. So you actually left your abusive marriage on your 30th birthday. you thought, no, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. What steps did you take from there to after you got into the personal development? Tell us a bit about the journey from there on.
Yeah, so first it started with kind of exposure to this information, right? I grew up in a kind, loving family, but it was a military family. You know, both my mom and dad met in the military, and they came from a generation where, you know, we don't really talk about or believe in anxiety and depression, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
think about what you're so fortunate for and be grateful and go help somebody less fortunate than you, rub some dirt on it, and move on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I
And
hear
and society as a whole has come a long way since then, as have my parents as individuals
you. Hmm.
in their thinking and just awareness of mental health and all that. But so it was very isolating growing up, feeling like I was the only person who struggled with these things and that I was weird, I was bad, it was something was wrong with me, right? And so then I had to hide that I was struggling with these things because we couldn't talk about it. So as I'm reading these books and I'm hearing these stories of these empowered, amazing people who had similar struggles at some point in their life and have turned their life around and are using their story to make an impact in the world, that was just a huge light to me. And so I saw I was not stuck. I was not stuck in that mentality. I could change and grow. And around that time with my education career, I was also introduced to like growth mindset and brain plasticity and all that. And so it just really opened my eyes into what I could do moving forward.
Because if things don't change, things don't change. And people think they can still keep doing the same things and expect different results if they just think a little bit different. And that is the start. But you have to back it up with actions, right? So I love the way you kind of really transitioned into, you went down the rabbit hole and then you had to kind of take some action behind it as well. Now, what were you kind of doing at the time of doing all of this transitional growth as well?
Um, in the beginning, it's just survival.
Uh-huh.
Survival exposure. And then as I heard, so the first thing I did in action wise, like the 10th book, I hear about gratitude journal, and I'm rolling my eyes, being like, who has time for that? How in the world is that going to be helpful? I just don't get it. And like the 10th time I read about it, I'm like, okay, maybe I should listen because obviously these people have unlocked something in life that I have not, right?
Mhm.
And so I tried it and within days was noticing a difference and was like, oh, wow, what else can I try? Which led me to like the whole affirmations type of thing and busting out of my comfort zone. And once I busted out of my comfort zone and wasn't just taking action in the safety of my own living room, wow, did things really just boom for me. I took my first salsa dance lesson class, and that led to a second salsa class, which a few months later led this shy, timid person against the wall to be on a performance dance team traveling to large cities within a few hours radius to perform with a group. And so my friends and family are looking and being like, who are you? Like, what? You walk in the room and you're glowing and you have so much confidence and peace and joy. And this is just a total turnaround from the Chantal that we knew. And so, obviously, as they're seeing that, they're asking, what did you do and how can I do it? Right? Everybody wants
Mhm.
a little bit of that.
Because they're not really realizing at this point that the Chantel that they knew and loved wasn't the real Chantel. They're finally seeing the true, authentic Chantel that had just stepped into that self-love and that confidence and was still growing. So would that be true kind of around that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I felt like I was just a shell of a person because I was living within the expectations or my perceived expectations of my world, right? And so I was playing very small, and all the shoulds in my head were leading my life and keeping me in my little shell.
Mm, mm. And I know how many people you're helping as well, with your audience and your followers and things like that, and your coaching, to really use those life skills and those transformations that you've already been through, and helping them transition and change and transform their lives as well, which I know is very close to your heart, and how much you love to serve other people as well. Now, just a little bit about your growth and people changing around you. Did you find that your friend circles were changing and you were having different conversations as well?
Absolutely. So I still have the same like core group of like ride or die friends, right? And my family is amazing and supportive. So those didn't change necessarily. But the other levels of my life, I was now like the whole dance community is the most positive community you can ever get in, and there's so much grace, and so you make a mistake and I'm immediately like, oh sorry, oh no, like, and they're like, it's okay, we're learning at some point, just keep coming, like you're fine. And I'm like, wait, what? Like I don't have to be perfect at something I've never done before. Like
Yeah, yeah.
um and
Freeing, isn't
so
it?
it is amazing. And then, I'm going to places where other people are reading these books, listening to these podcasts, and having these discussions. You're introduced to a whole new vocabulary, really. And just people with that mindset of, I'm not stuck, I'm growing, I can take action, I can do something different. And that was much different than conversations I had had prior to this transformation.
So I'm a firm believer in the person that you needed to be to survive is not the person you need to thrive. So, by you mentioning that transformation, if you're listening to Chantel's words, please connect with her, because she'll show you how to transition even more, because she has lived it, and she has, not been herself growing up, and now it's amazingly freeing and so organic and so natural and so empowering, that we can practice this self-love and really step into ourselves. And what amazing things have you got coming up in 2022, Chantel?
Yes, I'm very excited. So, all that led to writing a book, and then at book signings people asking to hire me, and I'm like, hire me for what? To tutor your kid? I'm a teacher, like what? And
Yeah.
they're like, to be my coach, and I'm like, what? I'm a teacher, I'm not a coach. So working through that identity, stepping into my world as a coach. And now in my day job, I'm still in education, but I actually train coaches how to coach, instructional coaches in the school system. And so it's funny how my worlds have combined. And so looking ahead to 2022, I'm really excited to begin working with other people who have had transitions and maybe be early in their transition, but they see the light at the end and they want to make an impact. And they want to do so through things like coaching, writing a book, starting a podcast. They want to get their story out there. They want to help people. And they have to work through all those beliefs of, who am I to do this? And my story's not special enough. And all the limiting beliefs that are in our heads, helping them work through that, helping them step into their power and share their story, because they have unique talents and skills and experiences that make their story they're the only person who can tell their story and help people in the unique way that they can. So I want to help uncover that and help them get their story out there.
100%. That little inner critic that sits on our shoulder, just creating so much awareness of those self-limiting beliefs, and being able to kind of still hear the voice, but then it gets softer and softer as we grow, doesn't it? That little inner critic. Yeah, we've got to flick that off our shoulder 100%. And tell us a little bit about these healthy habits. Just touching on that, you could give some advice or tips or anything like that for the healthy habits to transform your life. So, if it's somebody who's just starting on a personal development journey, what are some tips that you'd probably share with them?
So, excuse me, throughout, recognize where you're at, recognize where you want to be, and then allow yourself grace. You're not going to get to where you want to be overnight. So pick one small thing. What makes sense? What's the smallest thing you can do, and do it and celebrate it. So, one of the easiest things to do is just decide every morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to write down 3 things I'm grateful for. It takes less than a minute and makes such a huge impact. And then you can grow from there. Do you want to do 10 instead of 3? Do you want to add in stating some affirmations, right? Do you want to add in, I'm a big proponent of reading and listening to podcasts. You know, how are you growing yourself as a person? How are you growing your brain? And so I think the morning routine is just absolutely amazing and can be life changing. But you can't start with, I'm going to do this hour-long morning routine, right?
Mm.
Because your brain is going to go, what?
Hmm.
And put up all the blocks and barriers and keep you safe. And so you want to kind of like habit stack. So
Yep.
pick something you've already done. So maybe your affirmation is on a post-it note in your bathroom. And so you already have the habit of brushing your teeth. So you're just going to add the tiny little thing of, and now I'm going to read this affirmation. I brush my teeth, I read my affirmation, I move on with my day. I celebrate that was a win, good for me. That's something that I didn't used to do, and now it's what I do every day, right? So really, I'm a huge proponent of the tiny, consistent things you do with intentionality and discipline are what makes a huge difference.
Great advice, powerful, life-changing advice. And it's the compound effect, right? Small, little, daily, consistent actions lead to bigger things. And imagine how much can change in a year, in a month, in a week, even in a day. And your testimony to that, you woke up from that abusive relationship and went no more, and you made changes. And it's just those daily little consistent actions, and you're a powerhouse now. So we know that it can be done. We know we can overcome. We know we can connect with people that are going to help shine the light to the end of the tunnel to help us get to where we need to get to as well. And what kind of message would you like to leave the audience on today?
Yeah, I love that you kind of already led into this a little bit. But so Jim Rohn has the quote about you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I like to take that one step further, and I want everybody to try to think about having 3 different types of people in your life. So no matter where you are on your journey, there's someone behind you that you can help, that you can make an impact with, right? You can share your story, you can be a light. And so finding some way to do that, finding people in your same kind of space and area to grow and encourage and hold each other accountable, and then someone ahead of you. And that can look like books, podcasts, coaches, whatever it needs to look like for you where you're at on your journey. But find someone ahead of you, people at the same place as you, and people behind you.
Great advice, practical advice, and easy to implement advice and take action on. And that's what we like. We're not so much easy, but just simple. You know, our lives are complicated enough. I love the simplicity of the way you actually explain things as well, Chantel. Thank you very much for being brave to share your story of where you were and how you've overcome. We'll definitely be sharing where to connect with you. You are so appreciated in this community. You can find the Victim to Victory podcast series on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our Facebook group. So please subscribe, share, and comment. Don't forget to leave Chantel a review because she is amazing and she's changing lives, and help be the change that the world actually needs more than ever. And let me leave you with a message of figure out who you are and do it on purpose. Thanks, Chantel.
Thank you so much, Tracy.